I mean, we've all heard that, right? Hemp's going to save the planet. And I'm like, I'm an environmental scientist. Like, I understand complex ecosystems and diversity and ecology, and there's not a quick fix. There's not a one thing is going to save the planet.
That's Lorelei Alvarez, an environmental scientist and co-author of the Hemp and Sustainability Report, published last week by HempToday and CannaMarkets Group. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Hi there, my name is Eric Herlock. Welcome back to the Hemp Show. So today we're talking about hemp sustainability, what the science actually says, what's hype and what's real. I'm joined by Lorelei Alvarez. She's a research and data specialist at CannaMarkets Group, and she's an assistant professor at New Mexico State University. Her research digs deep into land use and ecological systems. We're also joined by Joseph Carringer, lead strategist at CannaMarkets Group and business strategist for HempToday. Together, they have published a very interesting analysis of hemp's environmental impact. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Our show this week is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company that's providing new opportunities for American farmers. Learn more at indhemp.com. This episode is also made possible with support from Forever Green, distributors of the KP4 hemp cutter. Introducing a revolution in hemp harvesting, setting a new standard for harvesting quality, speed, and efficiency. The KP4 prepares hemp for ideal retting and easy on-field tedding, raking, and baling. It's easy to maintain and designed to withstand the punishments of hemp harvesting. The KP4 hemp cutter, available only at hempcutter.com. Okay, welcome back. So, got something new for us this week, something special. Yeah, we're changing things a little bit. We're bringing in some new people, new voices. We're expanding our universe just a little bit. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the news nuggets, right? Yeah, the news nuggets. So, there's a news outlet that covers hemp in the world, sort of globally. They're called HempToday. I have often gotten a lot of my hemp news from hemptoday.net, and maybe you have too. But we are sort of partnering here on the Hemp Show, and from here on in, our news nuggets are brought to you by our friends over there at Hemp Today. So, first nugget here this week is about AAFCO. Remember last summer when the American Association of Feed Control Officials gave the green light for hemp seed meal in laying hens? It was a big step forward. But 1 year later, the rollout is far from complete. Because AAFCO only issues model rules, it's up to individual states to adopt them. Some have, many haven't. The result? A patchwork system where producers in a few states can use hemp seed meal, while farmers in other states are essentially still shut out. It's a reminder that hemp's path to becoming a true commodity feed crop is slowed down by regulatory red tape. Imagine that. Meanwhile, in Europe, Italy's crackdown on intoxicating hemp products is escalating. What started as restrictions on hemp flower sales has now expanded, with law enforcement raiding shops and tightening controls. Advocates warn that this heavy-handed approach could chill the entire hemp sector, not just intoxicating cannabinoids, but also fiber and grain. The news here is about the ripple effect. As Italy draws a hard line, it may embolden other EU countries to follow suit. Back in the US, Florida regulators are getting tough on hemp product packaging. The state is rolling out new rules aimed at stopping candy and snack-like designs that appeal to children. For hemp businesses, that means redesign costs and compliance headaches. Some companies are already being cited. This is newsworthy now because it signals where the regulatory winds are blowing: more oversight, stricter marketing limits, and likely copycat laws in other states. So, you know how I feel about this. What these companies are doing, what these companies are selling isn't hemp. It's just not. If you're selling intoxicating cannabinoids in any form, stop calling it hemp. Anyway, thank you to Hemp Today for supplying our news nuggets. I look forward to a really sort of wonderful partnership. So, all right, let's get to the main event today, which is my interview with Lorelei Alvarez and Joseph Carringer. We're going to talk about the sustainability of hemp and what can be learned from the new report that they've just published. Here we go. Lorelei Alvarez and Joseph Carringer. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the CannaMarkets Group Hemp Today, Hemp and Sustainability Report that CannaMarkets Group has compiled with the help of Lorelei and is published by Hemp Today. So let's first start by quick introductions. Lorelei, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here. I'm Lorelei Alvarez. I have a PhD in environmental science from the University of Virginia and master's degree from Longwood University in Virginia. And my research background has been focused on land use practices in managed and disturbed ecosystems and the impacts on the ecosystem.
Okay. And then Joseph, could you give us a quick intro?
Sure. I'm Joseph Carringer, and nice to see you again, Eric, and thanks for having us on the show. Joseph Carringer. I'm the lead strategist and project manager for CannaMarkets Group and business strategist for Hemp Today.
Cool. Well, welcome to you both. I'm looking forward to digging into the report. So, question for both of you, and maybe you could answer in tandem. What is this report, and why does it matter right now in this particular moment in hemp's evolution?
So this report, it's a literature review. It's a synthesis of research results on the sustainability of industrial hemp and how much we can actually say based on research, based on evidence, based on empirical studies that hemp is a sustainable agricultural crop. And I think it's very important for industrial hemp right now because I feel like this is a place in the evolution of industrial hemp where it has such potential to become something really amazing as far as replacing a lot of unsustainable type of production and as an alternative crop to many things, like, for example, building materials and biocomposites, things like that. And I feel like the industry has a bit of a responsibility to produce it in a way that is truly sustainable, not just the hype of, oh, it's hemp, it must be sustainable. Yeah, so that's why I think the report is really important and very timely in coming out.
Okay. Joseph, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to give a little rewind to where Lorelei and I first started working together, I come from a version 1.0 industrial hemp background. And when Lorelei and I started talking in 2019, initially about industrial hemp, I was still under the understandings and belief systems of the Jack Herer era that hemp was this wonder plant that's going to save everything. And Lorelei was the platform of grounded science that kept going, but what does the science say? What does the science say? And what does the science say? And so what this report is really doing is providing us the opportunity to let a research scientist tell us what the science is saying and show that, yes, there are some really great things that hemp can or could do, but we have to work within guidelines and we have to work within structures that support sustainability and circularity. And that's a lot of the work that Lorelei really has done at this point, is to compile all of this information in a digestible way that demystifies and also shows credible findings in the results that are out there.
Lorelei, you write that many sustainability claims about hemp are oversimplified. What's one example where the data tells a more complex story?
There are many examples of that. For example, carbon sequestration, right? There's a big talk about we should grow hemp because it sequesters a lot of carbon. The specific numbers are given in the report, and that's true. It really is. And just a very nuanced way of thinking about that. If in order to grow hemp, we clear a whole bunch of land to do it, then there's a lot of carbon being released prior to growing that hemp, right? So then we have to look at, does growing the hemp offset the cost of clearing the land in the first place? Then we have to look at how we're growing it, what kind of inputs, how much carbon is required to actually produce it, to actually grow it. Then we have to look at, okay, so maybe there's still benefits there, great, but then what are we doing with it? Are we going to use it as biofuel and just burn it up and put the carbon right back into the atmosphere, because then that doesn't really lead to long-term carbon sequestration. So that's just like one example. There's quite a few throughout the report.
Okay. And in the report, you go into detail about these
Hmm.
specific examples so people can read all
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, definitely.
You looked at carbon, water, soil, and life cycle impact. Was there a finding that challenged your expectations or changed how you see hemp's potential?
Interestingly, I went into writing this report with a little bit of a feeling of I just don't think hemp is all it's cracked up to be. Like that was kind of my overall feeling, because there's so much hype. The thing was, hemp can save the planet. Like, I mean, we've all heard that, right? Hemp's going to save the planet. And I'm like, I'm an environmental scientist. Like, I understand complex ecosystems and diversity and ecology, and there's not a quick fix. There's not a one thing is going to save the planet. So I had this little, maybe a little bit of chip on my shoulder, like, yeah, I'm going to disprove all this stuff, writing the report. And what surprised me is how sustainable hemp truly has the potential to be. It really does. And that's amazing. That's fantastic news, right? It's really great. And so that's what surprised me. And again, we have this responsibility to produce it in a sustainable way, right? So that's kind of the nuance of the report.
Joseph, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. I think one of the things that also is mentioned in the report, and with the excitement of sustainability and looking at it, and just to go back to this idea of we have to produce full supply chain throughput in a sustainable way, right? From seed to finished good. Hemp doesn't have the ability to overcome an unsustainable supply chain. And I think that's something that we need to actually, and there are details in the report that actually talk about that aspect, where you can't just say, oh, I can grow it and I'm going to do what we've always done. There's an aspect of that. So
Say that again, that hemp can't overcome an incomplete supply chain?
an unsustainable supply chain.
Unsustainable
So if
supply
you
chain.
have an environmentally unsustainable supply chain that's doing things as they've always done, so you build a 40,000 square foot facility and you don't have a single bit of solar on top of it. You're not using geothermal. You're not using wind. You're using traditional carbon energy to power your system. You aren't working in a LEED certified insulated building. You've built your manufacturing systems in the exact same way that they've already been done. Do not call yourself, and this is me talking right now, not the report, do not call yourself sustainable, because hemp is not going to overcome those aspects. It's not, that taproot is not sticking enough in the ground, and those leaves that we're not using are not grabbing enough carbon. And don't delude yourself or the industry into thinking that it's any different. And that goes back to me being from the version 1.0 Jack Herrera era, where we sent these fantasies out to the world. And so this is just like my little soapbox of wanting to make sure that we explain the differences.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So say I'm a farmer or a builder or, like a fiber entrepreneur. How should I use this report to make smarter decisions about sustainability or investment?
I am not an agronomist. I'm not an agricultural specialist. So I think what this report can do, if you're a farmer, is to give you a big picture overview of, is hemp worth integrating into your particular crop rotation in a regenerative agricultural system? And my hope is it will give you a starting place to look at, okay, so if I want to grow hemp, how would I do it in a sustainable way, just as a starting place? And then where is it going to go from? What am I going to do with it? Where is it going to go? Because hemp is one of those crops that you're not going to just grow it and then eat it, right? There's a whole big process that has to happen between growing and then what it's going to become. We have to decide, what exactly do I want to do with it? Where does it go from here? Am I going to be shipping it somewhere? How much is that going to cost me? Does it have to go overseas? How much is that going to cost me? Is it really sustainable for me to do this? Does the economy support it? Is there the infrastructure to support it? So I'm hoping from that standpoint, it'll give people at least a big picture overview.
Yeah, sure. Because, and you're talking about, planting the seed and then where that goes from there. Ideally, the person planting the seed is going to know, to some extent where it's going to end up, like what sort of product line it's going to get into.
I would recommend that they do know
Yeah. They,
that.
but that's not always the case, right? Like I know
Right.
over the past few years, like people just grew hemp.
Yeah.
But it's focusing now. All right. So this next question is for you, Joseph. From your perspective at HempToday and CannaMarkets, why was it important to back this report and put it out under your banner?
Again, it goes back to, I think, a lot of the legacy claims that came out of the activism era that I started in. And we were driving product development. We were doing developmental research and selling genes and body care products. I mean, you run the gamut of what was there in the 90s and early 2000s. And we kept saying that, the one that I always go back to, and I know you've heard me say this, and I'll bring it up again, is the 1 acre of hemp equals 4 acres of trees. And I had this existential crisis when I was doing this independent study that and Lorelei, I called her up and I said, all of this stuff that we've been claiming since the 90s, it's so much of it's coming back as untrue or exaggerated. I'm like, I don't know if this thing is even real anymore. And she's like, just keep with it and keep doing the research. And so why this has become so important is that there is a correction, an error correction in the information. So, 1 acre of hemp produces a significant amount of biomass that can offset a particular amount of wood products fiber based on a variety of different variables, including the duration of time the tree takes to grow, the type of tree that it is. So you can't look at the Dewey Lister 1914 paper. And again, 1914. We're quoting a paper from 1914 as accurate current science. Just stop doing that. So what this is doing is giving us the ability to be able to reset a platform and go, we're going to base our ideas of hemp and sustainability and circularity on current standards, current research, and work with people who've been doing this now. Because we have a lot of really smart people that are out there doing some great research. And so giving those platforms the opportunity to be able to come forward and set the record straight.
Yeah, well, good. I have another question that I want to ask, but right in there, I kind of maybe asked Lorelei this. It feels like we're at a point in our culture, in our politics in the US where, I don't know, data and information and facts seem dangerous or something. Like talking about sustainability kind of seems risky, or I don't know. What's this climate like for you as a research scientist?
I think climate's change. We went through this once before, and the politics, the things always are changing from one direction to another. And to me, it like becoming a more sustainable, more environmentally friendly culture society is not a political talking point. It's a necessity that humanity is going to do or not survive.
Right.
So it's not really like climate change doesn't care whether you believe in it or not, right?
Right.
So like we're gonna just have to get there. And regardless of whether it's popular right now to talk about it or not, I'm gonna keep talking about it because it's necessary for the survival of our species on the planet.
Amen to that. Thank you, Lorelei.
Thanks.
All right. Another question. I guess this is for Joseph. In the hemp industry, hemp is sustainable. It's a phrase that gets thrown around like gospel. How does this report help clean up that narrative and raise the standard for how we talk about hemp?
I think it gives what it's going to do is create a first step for those who are interested and are wanting to hold themselves accountable to the current understood fact is like, what can I call, what can I claim? How can I self-evaluate, self-identify as to where my company is inside of this area? It gives some first steps. I have a client who we do consulting for that's in a construction biocomposites arena who is doing a paper right now for a funding bid and actually got an advanced copy of the report specifically so that he could have access to the references, because this is a scientific paper. So you actually have the ability to go in the back and see references and where this information comes from. So it's not just Lorelei's opinion or CannaMarkets Group's opinion or HempToday's opinion. These are actual references and resources that have come from scientific papers. And it's going to give that level of ability to create a cornerstone for companies moving forward of how to align themselves inside of that circularity and sustainability space.
That's awesome. So you and I have talked about, global reach and the need for credible tools. Who do you most hope picks up this report, and what do you want them to walk away with? Everybody.
Really, everybody. I mean, luckily we have great farmers leading the cause, like leading the charge right now. We've got Steve Groff, we've got the guys in South Dakota, we have the farmers out in Montana that are really trying to hold down that anchoring of sustainability, regenerative. So we have some great practices happening at that level. At the processor level and going up through manufacturing, we need to start going, okay, the farmers aren't doing it all. And I think so that's where everybody starts, and that's all of us. I'm working a textile manufacturing project. I've got to be able to look at where inside of those processes can I at all call the fabric that we're developing and the cut make trims that we're using, are they sustainable? And figure out where am I going to be able to make claims or not make claims, and then don't make false claims.
That's good advice. Don't make false claims. That's why this report is just so simply important, right? Because like you said, backed up with data, it's got sources, like there it is. Thank you. All right. So we all want hemp to succeed, but if it's going to live up, to the hype, if it's going to live up to the vision that people have for it, what's one shift in mindset or message that needs to happen? And you can both take a shot at this, please.
I feel like the shift has already started to happen. So in 2018, 2019, when we first started talking about this, the messaging was still very much the hype, the 1 acre of hemp equals 4 acres of trees, the 20,000 different products you're going to make with hemp and how it's going to save the planet. And I think that the shift that has to happen is just a more nuanced conversation. It just has to include the data, right? That's my whole thing, is just back up what you're saying with evidence. Look at what there are so many great researchers who are really looking at this, right? They're out there. My report is literally just a lit review, like building on the backs of these amazing scientists who are doing such great work. So look at their work, like read their articles, right? Get more nuanced, educate yourself before you start making big claims.
There you go. Because hemp has so many great stories to tell, and there are enough accurate stories to tell. So let's tell the accurate stories.
Exactly.
Yeah. Joseph, how about you? How would you answer that question? What's one shift that needs to happen in mindset or message?
I think piggybacking on what Lorelei said, there has been this idea that hemp can come in and be a replacement or take over for, and really as a potential commodity, because it's not even a commodity right now, globally or otherwise. So as a potential commodity and raw material that we can use for some products, right? And historically, the most commonly used thing we've ever made from hemp has been cordage and textiles. But let's say that we're able to create a handful, let alone 20,000 really good hemp products that consumers want to use. If we can do that as being part of a supportive facet of sustainability with our adjacent industries that are out there, that, we want to see the building sector in general, whether they're using wood products or not, become more sustainable. And if we can be a piece of that with them as they're figuring out with other materials, then let's become an ally. So that's a shift that I would love to see, is that we stop thinking that we can shoulder the whole problem like Atlas. And instead we're like going, okay, we're going to be a tiny part of an entire brigade sustainability warriors that are, or just responsible companies that are trying to figure this out together. And again, stop making claims that we can do it all, because we have definitely shown over the last several years that we can't, and that's okay. We need to figure out what we can do.
Right. Instead of Atlas shouldering it all, I see many weavers weaving the fiber together, right?
Absolutely.
So many good metaphors. I love a good metaphor. All right. Now, coming up to the end here, sort of one final question. Maybe you're expecting this, but where can people get this report? And what other tools or stories should we expect from you all in the coming months?
So the report is available now. You can go to HempToday.net and use the drop-down menu for the reports right there on the top of the navigation and purchase it right online.
Okay. And this is an investment that people want to make in their business, right? I don't know if we want to talk about cost here, but yeah, there's a lot of work that went into this report, and it's extremely valuable. So I guess what I'm saying is spend the money, buy the report.
Yeah. And so, and to demystify, yes, this is a $99 report. When you look at adjacent sectors that are out there, whether it be wood products, chemical, anywhere through the agricultural sector with stuff like our friends over at the Jacobson, which is now a Fast Markets company, does. There are companies that do reports, and they charge tens of thousands of dollars for memberships on an annual basis. Now, we're not included in a lot of those companies that do that reporting because of how small the hemp industry is. So what we're asking for the amount of work truly that Lorelei has done in any of our reports, which are $99, is really a small fee compared to the amount of information you're getting and the workload that went into producing it.
Yeah, $99, you're probably paying more than that in tariffs right now, right?
Probably.
Anyway, so wrapping things up. Well, thank you both for joining me. Lorelei, is there anything else you'd like to add, either about the report or about the hemp industry or the work that you're doing? Something you want to share with our audience here?
I just, again, want to just reiterate that as far as the hemp industry goes, I think it's so important to ground environmental claims in actual evidence. And because of the 2018 Farm Bill, there's so much evidence now. And I'd love to tell people, if you get the report, read it, go to the reference section, look up those articles, go to their reference sections, look up those articles, right? Just really get grounded in scientific evidence. And I think we can do this hemp thing in a really sustainable, magnificent way, and really set an example for other industries.
Cool. Yeah. Triangulate the research. Go deep. Get in there. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for providing all of that information for the hemp industry, because I think everyone's been hungry for it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then Joseph, we'll end with you, and then we'll wrap it up and let you guys get back to your super exciting lives doing things.
I actually just want to reinforce what Lorelei just said, and if you don't have the time, the ability, the resources to go do all of that work that Lorelei just said to do by looking at all of the references and going and doing your own research, we all owe Lorelei a huge debt of gratitude for doing the work so that you don't have to, and giving you such great cliff notes inside of the report. So, and thank you for having us on today, Eric.
Absolutely. And I will put a big giant link to the report on the show page for this episode. So if people forget what you said earlier, they can just go to lancasterfarming.com, click on that, go to hemptoday.net, buy the report. Done.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there you go. It's the end of the show. Almost. So yeah, we've heard the claims about hemp. We've all made these claims, right? It can feed us. It can clothe us. It can save the world. And yeah, I'm optimistic about all of these things, but I'm also pragmatic. I'm also sometimes a realist. So you have to look at the data, right? You have to dig in and actually see what it says. And you know what? Yeah, looking at the data in this report, there is a lot to be excited about. Sure, hemp isn't perfect, but there's so much promise there. And this report doesn't give us all the answers. It gives us a roadmap. It's like a reminder that the future of hemp is still being written and that you have a role to play in shaping it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, that does it for me. Thank you for listening. My name is Eric Herlock, Senior Digital Editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online, get a subscription, all of those things. Oh, and be sure to go to the show page for this episode because you can click on the link that will take you to the place where you can get the sustainability report. Okay? It's at HempToday.net, but if you can't remember that, just go to my show page and click on it. All right, so I would love to hear your feedback on today's show. If you have any comments or questions, you can send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. All right, well, thank you all for listening, and until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2025 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded by Eric Herlock and engineered, mixed, and produced and all that by Justin Berger.